Up time for some eye candy. Showed you this earlier. Luka, LeBron, the chemistry. It was on display here. The outlet. It's, right on the money. But I want you guys to take another look at Luka in these eyes. He's like, oh, I see you, LeBron. I got you, baby. And he drops that dime here. Give me your thoughts here, Jay Will. I think these two, offensively, going to be really good.
BC, look, we keep coming back to offensively. It's going to be really good. You need defense to win playoff games. We're going to give them time, but small ball and this style of play is what we're going to see a lot of.
What do you think is the ceiling, Wendy, for these two when you talk about Luka and LeBron?
Well, I think we're going to really enjoy watching them. I think basically Laker games are going to be must watch. I really just think that their playoff success is going to come down to matchups because there are going to be some teams that can just really exploit them. But there's going to be some teams that are just going to be able to flat out outscore. They have really looked good over the last 4 or 5 weeks. JJ Redick has got them playing well. And guys, they are basically tied in the loss column for the 3 seed. They could get themselves in position to have home court in the first round. They can make a little move here, but man, it's going to depend on who they match up against.
Quietly, LeBron and when AD was there were asking for another star, another player. They've got him. Monica, can Luka and LeBron win a title?
Sure, anything's possible. Luka got traded to the Lakers. Is it going to happen this year? Absolutely not. Here's my thing, B. Custer, and I got to go back to this. As much as Wendy's right, this defense since I believe it was the midway point in January into this midway point in December into January, much improved, top 10 in terms of their overall rating. But that was with guys that they don't have anymore. I am struggling to separate this team defensively and offensively. Offense, fireworks, boom, we love it. As I think of the standings, a team like Houston, who has been fantastic defensively, but sometimes has a few hiccups getting the offensive flow together, they could be in danger. Memphis, they got some size on the inside, I'm not sure. All of this, of course, is contingent on health. But in terms of the Lakers making a real move, I just think a lot has to fall into play this particular season.
Go ahead, Jay.
To your point real quick, too, Monica, no rim protection, right? And also, Will Hardy last night, the first 4 or 5 possessions, they targeted Luka. Wrong matchups. That's going to be an ongoing. We talked about that a lot last season, Monica, right? Luka being targeted, that doesn't take away what he does in the offensive end, but that's going to be a big issue for them.
And don't forget that trade that the Lakers did make for a center got rescinded when they went and got Williams from Charlotte. So we'll see if they can get a center. Speaking of teams trying to get some chemistry, how about those Warriors, those new look Warriors? Steph Curry and the Warriors taking on the Bucks, and this was a Dame Steph shootout here. Look at this. The tip out to Steph, splash. Knocks that down. That 3. Warriors were at 1 at this point. Warriors up 4 here. Here's what Jimmy Butler gives you. Gets into that paint, knocks down the jumper. Warriors were up 6. We're in the second quarter now, and then Steph Curry driving, pulls up, banks it home. Warriors were up 7 at the half. I said Dame and Steph went shot for shot. Here's Dame. In the third. Goes right down the lane. He finished with 38 in the third. Steph splitting defenders and scoring. Warriors were up 2. And then here in the third, Jimmy Butler getting it in that post, turn around, knocks it down. Warriors were up 6 after 3. We get to the fourth, they're up 15. And then Steph loses oh my goodness. Lord have mercy. Steph had 38. Warriors win at 125. They're 111. Okay, so give me your thoughts here on what you've seen initially out of these new Warriors here, Jay Will.
Initially, BC, I'm not. Look, this is an undersized team, man. I love Jimmy. I don't see anything really changing. I know Steve Kerr said that he has the heart of a lion. There was a lion on the court. And I get the thought, on paper, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. But Jimmy's older right now, and I still don't see it for this team. His game is very different. I know it gives him a dog, but I still think they're extremely undersized, and that's going to be a problem for any team in the Western Conference. And also, I don't really care about initially I care about once we dig into the season, more so for Jimmy Butler. That's how I evaluate Jimmy Butler. He's always great at first. How is he on the back end?
What's your first impression, Wendy?
So you mentioned earlier, Brian, in the highlight about how it went from a 6-point game to a 15-point game in the fourth quarter. Steph went to the bench at the end of the third, and Jimmy Butler made a huge impact with his scoring in that period where Steph was out. And that's really where the rubber meets the road here. The Warriors have just had periods over the last couple of years where they've just died on the floor when Steph has been on the bench. Jimmy is going to fix that. He has 28 free throws in the last 2 games. That's the most we've seen for a Warriors player since Durant in 2018. He brings that aspect to them. Kerr has basically said he's hoping this team, the way it's constructed, to get to the 6th seed. They were out of the top 10 just a couple of days ago. They're in 10th now. They're 3 games behind the 6th seed. That would be an incredible accomplishment. And if Jimmy's healthy, I think it's reasonable. I think they could do it.
Monica, I know you mentioned something in your notes in our pre-production meeting that you've noticed here in the first couple of games. What is it?
It was the free throws thing. I'm with Wendy. I'm like, oh wow, Jimmy's getting to the line. That is something that the Warriors have desperately needed. They are in the bottom of the league when you talk about free throw rate as a unit, right? He's gotten to 28 in just 2 games. And so the thing I do really like about this is the way that Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry complement each other. But again, I'm with Jay Will on this one. Like, I still have questions about how this team is going to be able to defend. When the Lakers won, I believe in the early 2000s, like, teams that are outside of that top 10 in terms of defensive rating typically don't get it done. We've only had 3 champions since like 96. So there's a lot of enthusiasm here, and I get it. I do think if they get through the play-in or they're an early team in the first round, because of their veteran chops and their experience between playoff Jimmy and between supernova Stephen Curry, a gold medalist, Olympic champion, what we saw him do this summer, you probably are like, don't love this matchup because you have the appropriate amount of respect. But overall, I don't see them as a contender right now.
Philadelphia, where earlier this week, our own Lisa Salters reported that Joel Embiid may have to undergo another left knee surgery. Now, if the knee isn't feeling better by the end of the season, Embiid played for Team USA this past summer in the Paris Olympic Games. He's only played in 16 of the 52 76ers games so far. Wendy, you look at what they've done and you talk about extending him. Do they have a Joel Embiid problem?
Yes, absolutely. Because I know that people would like this to be a cut and dry issue. You either need knee surgery or you don't. That's not necessarily clear here. He has seen a number of specialists. There isn't a clear path on how to resolve this issue. He's still playing, obviously. They've got him playing. If they thought he needed knee surgery, trust me, the Sixers would have dealt with it. He's playing right now. And he signed this $193 million contract extension. He's under contract now for 5 more years for $300 million. Like, they have to get this right. And right now, they have no option. They have to figure this out.
Jay Will, give me your thoughts on this because, listen, he had fallen out of favor with some of the fans in Philly. He talked about not playing in back-to-backs. Give me your thoughts. Do they have a Joel Embiid problem?
I mean, BC, we used to have this show on ESPN called Numbers Never Lie. So, right, like I'll just give you my opinion in the numbers, okay? So the numbers are, he's played 449 games in his career. He's had 404 DNPs. That's the equivalent of 5 seasons.
Yikes.
That's my answer. That's my mic drop. I don't even need to answer the rest of the question.
Monica?
The silver lining here is that they're able to draft Tyrese Maxey because it's obvious, right? Like, it is obvious that this is quite the conundrum. They are tied up both in hope and positivity and expectation and literally in the numbers, both financially and the games played that Jay mentioned. And so here we are. And I think, and this, to tie it all back to how we started the show, BC, like, this is sort of the big gamble you take when you put your franchise's hopes on one guy. Whether we talk about what's going on in Dallas now behind this trade, or now you look at the same situation with the process. Like, the process continues. I thought it was supposed to come to a period at some point with some sort of resolution.
Well, we've seen it with AD. We've seen it with Luka. Wendy, should the Sixers trade Joel Embiid?
He's not tradable right now, Brian. That contract makes him his value is not realistic. And just on Friday, Daryl Morey, their team president, coming out of the trade deadline, still reaffirmed, we think he's a top 5 player. We don't regret signing Paul George. The future going forward is around Joel Embiid. So he's doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on it. And he really has to, because that contract makes it impossible. They have to figure out a way to get him right. Trust me, they're trying. They are seeking all kinds of alternatives, trying to make it happen. When he is right, he is awesome. As Jay Will said, though, he's just not right as much as he needs to be.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Tyrese Maxey continues to put up big numbers. It seems like that's the guy they should be building that team around, Tyrese Maxey. By the way, we got a huge NBA Wednesday doubleheader coming your way. Wemby Spurs, they're in Boston. That's at 7 Eastern. And then you'll see, Steph, Jimmy Butler, the Warriors take on Dallas.
Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA,